Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Queenie. For those who don't know me, reviewing Married at First Sight UK Season 8 Episode 9. Before I get into it, please make sure to like this video, subscribe and hit the bell, and leave a comment down below. Jumping straight in, we have Terrence, who, as we know, wrote leave in the commitment ceremony. But when one person says leave and the other says stay, they have to stay. One of the experts comes to intervene to try and see if they can get them back on track.
Unless there's an instant apology, it's a goodbye for me.
Terrence.
I sincerely apologise for calling you childish. I feel like just show me the real you.
The more I feel safe that this is a safe space for me to be vulnerable, the more you'll see that. So be patient with me.
The thing that doesn't make sense to me, I feel like I also have to provide clarification about something that I said in the last video. In no way have I ever, will I ever justify cheating. There is, however, a pattern in Porsha's relationships, and I think that that needs to be investigated by Porsha. That's all I was trying to say. So when Porsha here is saying at the end of the honeymoon is where things started to go left for her, to me it does not make sense, because even the wording doesn't match what she's saying. So Terrence is here saying like things happened before the last night, and she completely denies that things were going wrong prior to, which is just so confusing to me, but that's what she believes, so fine, let's go with it. She says that if she had received an immediate apology from Terrence calling her childish, that they wouldn't be having the issues that they're having right now. I was under the impression that he did apologize at the dinner party, but maybe he didn't. He apologized here again, and Porsha is like, well, great, now we can go forward. This relationship, if I was in it, would absolutely exhaust me. Paul and Tasha have now consummated their marriage, and so of course Tasha's excited to tell her girlfriends. Ella is one of the girls who's listening, and of course it's making her feel away.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Oh, I had a whale of a time.
Did
darling.
you? Fantastic.
Straight away, it's like pulled me towards him and just wanted a cuddle, and it's like everything feels different.
Yeah.
It's really nice to hear that the girls are having this amazing time, and I'm nowhere near it. Because like I can't even get a kiss. Does my husband fancy me? Like, does he really?
I understand that Ella is feeling like she's falling behind, but realistically, I don't understand what harping on the fact that you and your partner aren't physically intimate is going to do to enhance physical intimacy. Obviously, there are points where maybe your values don't align. There's this whole stripper thing. There's the whole who's a showman, who's being fake. We're not even on the same page when it comes to that. So being physical, to me, would not be the next step. The next step would be, can we hash out our issues? Can we try to see what we do have in common, what values do align with each other, what points of compatibility we have, so that eventually we could work towards the physical thing. I think Ella being stuck on that is holding their relationship back. Roz and Thomas clearly still have this awkward tension going on between them. So again, the experts intervene.
I feel like you are taking advantage of me and use sex as a tool to validate your feelings.
I don't know, I feel sad that like I would make anyone feel like that.
I feel like sometimes maybe your past relationships have caused insecurities.
I do take that on board, and I will make an effort to be more positive with you. It hurt me to see you feel that way.
And same for me, like I'm sorry for everything too.
I love how the experts are being more hands-on this season. I really like it. It kind of seems sometimes that the experts set them up for failure. And I know that the experts are not the final say on who gets put together, but because they're the face, that's just who we put the responsibility on. But they're really, they're really doing the doing things this season. When it comes to Roz and Thomas, Roz does admit that it wasn't the best plan of action to use physical intimacy to test where your feelings were for the person. But my thing is, I don't actually think that that was a bad thing, but it's because she didn't voice it to Thomas. Because the person receiving the physical affection, not knowing what your thought process is thinking, oh, we're progressing in the relationship. But in fact, she's just testing the waters. So if she would have said, hey, listen, I feel like we're clearly hitting a wall here. What if we tried this and see how we feel after? Maybe then Thomas would be in a better mindset and not thinking like, oh, we're progressing. And then that's not the case. With Roz, she feels as if Thomas's past relationships are keeping him from progressing in this one. He admits that he could do better. It looks like they're going to be on the up and ups, but honestly, I'm not very hopeful for them. I'm just not. Something about them is not meshing together. And even though there are other relationships that might not be super compatible, there's at least more potential. With Roz and Thomas, like at this point, I don't even know if attraction could ever grow. Just so much has happened. At least with like George and Peggy, there's potential there. With Laura and what's her name now? Arthur, there's potential there. There's definitely points where they might be misaligned, but these two, it might be a wash. A few couples have taken on the Ask Me Anything task where you ask your partner anything. It's self-explanatory. And Jay is asking the right questions.
I want to know if you love yourself. Sometimes I think you question if you're good enough.
Yeah, I do. I don't think I'm good enough. That's one of my issues.
Well, you are good enough.
Thanks.
Sorry, not Jay. I meant Luke. She has a unisex name. It confuses me. Luke was asking a very good question because he can sense some insecurities, I guess, or whatever. What I would have loved to also hear is for him to ask how he could show up for her in a way that would be reassuring. Because if he's feeling like she's still insecure, maybe there's something he could do to help her along. Of course, ultimately, it's up to her to maybe start to love herself a little bit more. She does acknowledge that she has self-esteem issues and stuff like that. But as a partner, if he could chip in some form or fashion, why not? But that's me being nitpicky. I honestly feel like he smashed this task. Now, Shona and Brad were also given the Ask Me Anything, and, well, it didn't go as well.
Name 3 things you would change about me.
To be more aware, maybe to be more considerate, don't actually ask me things. And then just the cleanliness, maybe like being a little bit tidy, like just certain responsibilities with having a child forces you to adapt. What's your biggest responsibility that you've ever had? We're different because you haven't had a child.
For a couple who claims that they are already in love, they sure do have a lot of qualms with each other. Brad believes that Shona is naive, essentially. She's naive, she's spacey, she doesn't have self-awareness, I guess you could say. I can understand where that thought process is coming from. I think because Shona has this very fairy tale outlook on life, it keeps her from maybe looking deeper. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. I did not like that Brad made the correlation with her not having kids being the reason as to why maybe her priorities aren't straight or whatever like that. Like, he feels like her biggest responsibility, being a house and a dog, is not at the same level of him being a parent. I just felt like, of course, being a parent does add a different perspective that non-parents likely wouldn't fully understand, but to completely just cut it down to be like, yep, because you don't have kids, you're naive and there's certain things that I have to teach my son and you just don't get it because you don't have kids. I didn't really like that. I did not like that. But the fairy tale thing, I can see where he got that from. Things unfortunately escalated between the two of them to the point where they didn't end up sleeping in the same apartment. It sounds like there was a night out with a few of the couples. They came back super sloshed, and during the night out, Brad was giving explicit information about what's going on in his marital bed, which did not sit well with the other couples. He also was telling Laura, I want to say it was Laura, it's either Laura or Peggy, but I'm thinking it was Laura, how he felt that Shona was immature.
Shona lives in her own head and she just coasts through life and nothing negative has ever happened to Shona, not like it has for him. Shona's immature. Shona's childish. Shona's naive.
Just feel like, I don't know, just
I've seen now a peek behind the red velvet curtain of your relationship, and I really wish I hadn't.
Like I said, besides equating parenthood to maturity, I think that what he's saying tends to be correct. I can definitely see her You know, like it just seems like if something isn't a fairy tale, it's like doomsday for her. And that's not life. It's not just black and white. There's gray. There's a whole lot of nuances that go into life. And so she yeah, I don't know. Just, I don't like Brad's delivery. And to be honest, if we're going to talk about who is more mature in this situation, is going around explaining explicit information about your relationship mature? I don't think so. Some of the other couples have been doing the values challenge where they write a list of 10 values. I think those things were given to them and they rank them from number 1 to 10. Peggy and George are struggling to align their values.
Do you want children or not? Do you physically, George?
It hasn't crossed my mind.
I'm desperate for children, and what George put today, it's not ideal. I want a mini human being to call me mummy.
That's cute.
But Peggy, you already have a child. His name is George. I had to remind myself that Peggy is the woman who at the beginning of the season said that marriage is going to make her happy. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. So for her to say that she's desperate for children doesn't surprise me. I understand that so deeply though. I'm not in my 30s. However, I do have that fear that if I don't have kids in the next however many years, like it's over for me. So I understand the desperation. I just hope that she doesn't tie her happiness to being a mother and being a wife, because if those things don't come to fruition, or if they deviate from her plan, like, is that going to lead her to depression or whatever? Like, I just really hope that her sole source of happiness is not just the title of being a wife. And hopefully she'll be able to have kids in the future. She wants a mini-me, she said. So whether that's with George is up in the air. They also have a difference of opinion on how important sex is. I think for her it was number 9 and for him it was number 4. It wasn't as big of a deal, but they've got a lot of misalignment that they need to work out. Some of the couples meet up to debrief how Confessions Week has been going.
That we have to honestly ask each other and then we have to answer honestly.
Oh, I like that one.
Had to rank values, and surprisingly, 4 out of 5 were the same of our top 5.
The biggest challenge, I think, well, from an outside point of view, is Arthur and Laura. I don't think they're actually a good match. It makes me feel that they're a bit of a gold digger.
I'm with Luke. I don't think that Laura and Arthur are going to make it. I think that the shoe was going to drop with Arthur. I just do. I expect it. I don't agree with him calling her a gold digger, though, just because she wants a Chelsea boy. I don't get that impression. But then again, the person who was shutting it down was Porsha. I don't know. I just can see trouble in the future coming for Arthur and Laura. They also believe that Brad and Shona are in a very performative relationship, and they didn't like the fact that he was telling everybody what was going on in their bedroom. They also think that Nathaniel needs to open up more to Ella. So here we have Nathaniel, who was given the task to write something about himself that Ella does not know about him. He did not do that.
But in this process, you've been accepting. You made me feel safe. You were like a really great light in this experience. And that's what I really love about you. My soul and mind is not being tested, or I'm not learning. And I'm not learning about you. I'm looking for my forever person here. And obviously I don't want to get into anything if it's less. I want to know what makes you tick. What makes you happy? Go and actually think about it, because if you don't know, we're never going to align.
At this point, I think that Nathaniel does not have an intention to let Ella in whatsoever, because instead of writing something about himself, he wrote a frustration he has with Ella. And it basically was that I need to be emotionally, mentally, intellectually, whatever, stimulated, and you don't give that to me. But here was an opportunity for you to open up, not to say that it has to be your deepest, darkest secret, but at least let her in to some degree, and you flubbed it, completely flubbed it. As we know, he did have a different vision of what marriage was going to be. And I think that he's one of those people who's going to be stuck on that. He also said that the characteristics that he was looking for, he felt like the experts didn't deliver. So I think it was doomed from the beginning. I don't think he's going to give her a chance. It's very frustrating for Ella, but yeah, they're not going to make it. Tasha writes a letter to Paul expressing where her trust issues are coming from.
This is very hard for me to do. As you know, opening up and being emotional is not my thing. I used to let people get into my head and control me. From this, I struggle to trust anyone who said they loved me or cared about me. I fear that I will begin to freak myself out. My view on being able to trust people is well and truly changing.
You as a whole is who I'm falling for.
I can see myself falling for you.
Did you guys notice that they didn't blur out the letter? Typically when somebody writes something down on paper and they have the shot like from behind the head, we don't get to see what's actually written on the paper. So I liked that you could fact check what she was saying versus what she wrote. What she was saying was that she comes from a family that doesn't share their emotions a lot. And then number two, she's been in relationships where people didn't treat her right, so she's a little bit jaded from those. And that's why it took her a while to warm up to Paul. However, Paul, being as he is, has made it so much easier for her to open up to him. Honestly, I was very scared for Paul. In the first introduction episode of his, it looked like he was going to be a man-child, but he's just tick, 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 knocking it out the park. Honestly, Paul might be one of the best husbands this season. Lastly, we have Shona, who finally confronts Brad on the things that she's learned that he's been saying about her.
Shona's like naive about life, she's selfish, she's all like childish. You sat and told people intimate things about us. I feel so flat.
It was more of a case of just venting to people. Obviously, there was just things that I was noticing a lot because I didn't know that that was something you would be uncomfortable with.
I think because we said we weren't going to say anything.
Yeah.
I feel like you just have to kind of start to try and love my imperfections a bit.
Okay.
It is healthy that I know all this now. And this feels really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I said earlier, you want to call her out on being immature, but I don't think sharing explicit details about your relationship is mature either. I think that with the whole spacey thing, sometimes I could be spacey too, and it's kind of bad because I live by myself. But if I was living with somebody, I would like for them to point things out as they happen so that I am cognizant, like, oh, this thing happened. I don't think that comes with maturity. I think that's just like a thing with people. Some people are just spacey. It is what it is. Whether or not he's going to see her as like an equal partner, I don't know how that's going to work. I know in her Confessions Week thing, she said that ideally she would love to live on a beach and, you know, spend the rest of her days in an island and stuff like that. And he was saying, well, I can't leave my son. So this whole like, I'm a parent, you're not a parent, you just don't get it mentality is going to be a thing with him. Maybe they can work through it. I don't know. It seems like in the next episode, she's trying to defend their relationship and he starts like biting at her. I don't know. These two are really trying to fake the funk and it did not last at all. Anyways, as always, please make sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.